Okay, here's this Roby tractor coming round. What a rare bit of kit that is. The gentleman driving that, he is the editor of the NTT magazine, something which I get to read twice a year. Sorry, 4 times a year. And a very good read it is too. And it's well worth remembering that the NTT run a steam apprentice scheme where youngsters from 14, is it? Or younger, 14 or younger can join the apprentice club, and they are mentored, for want of a better word, and taught to steer and drive and look after these wonderful machines. And Roby, of course, I like when I say Northampton, that was Alchin. Roby, of course, was Lincoln, over in the flat country, like so many other measures. Happy lady. As I said, very unusual engine that, in as much as it's piston valve, double high. The Roby being owned by Brian Knight, as I say, who is the editor of the NTT magazine. NTT. Sorry, it's edited by Kevin Mills, and he's the editor. Very good job they do too, the NTT, helping to keep steam on the road. I was actually having a drink with Smithy last night, Dave Smith, who is, of course, on the NTT committee as well. There we go. We've got plenty of time, so there's no rush. The Wallace being very sort of user-friendly for people who are not used to an engine, really. The steering is a lot lighter than some rollers, and of course you can climb in the back. So for an old fogey like me, they're ideal, really. There we go. Being expertly driven by, I suspect, Miss Showman. Perfect. I hope Jeffrey's headed my way. I'm in trouble. Is there any more? Well, that's the way to do it. If nobody else doesn't want to go, Rebecca's got on to somebody else's engine. Fair play. Yeah, that is Patrick Andrews' engine, that one. Paddy Edwards himself, so they're in the gateway, smelling very sweetly today, on account he snuck home for a shower. What a lightweight. Love you, Pat. The Navelin and Porter, and that one is owned by Charlie Cripps, guy you see driving it. One man operation, of course, rollers when they were working. This is the Fowler. Not too many Fowler rollers left. Unfortunately, most of them have been chopped up to make pseudo Showman's engines. So it's actually nice to see a Fowler roller that is a roller. Little single cylinder, slide valve, number 19049, works number. John Fowler up there, of course, in Leeds. Makers of very, very fine ploughing engines, it has to be said. Right, here we have Ancient Hall. And if I'm correct, hello there, John, I've got a feeling this engine was owned by the guy that's steering its grandfather. If not, definitely his dad had it, but I've got half an idea his granddad had this one, or he used to drive it, if not own it. And it's Ancient Hall, and it's a Marshall from over there in Gainsborough, in the Low Counties. And John once said to me, if all his other engines had to go for some reason, that would be the last one he would ever sell, which is nice. Quite an early one, that one as well, that Marshall. Then we've got that delightful little Wallace Advance coming round again. Double high piston valve, no flywheels on those, so you can reverse almost instantly. Quadrant steering as well, it's quite unusual. There you go, he's proving the point. Because of course when you're running a roller, the second, excuse me, and you're rolling tarmac, the second you stop, the roller sinks into the tarmac, and you don't want that. And I believe, if I'm absolutely right, the rear track on the rear rolls, or the camber if not, the track can be altered as well. So very, very capable machine. This is Mercury. I believe it's Pete Best's engine, though I may be wrong. She's a big Garrett, agricultural. Not so many big Garretts left, I have to say. It's always nice to see one. Agricultural meaning basically general purpose engine, would be used for saw bench work, towing, virtually anything around an estate they would use this engine for. Winching. Hopefully we will get the majority of the engines in here this afternoon. That's what I want to do. Get as many in as we can. notice these whistles, every single whistle's got a different note to it. And the idea of that was that when the engines were being used, you could tell, if you were local and it was a local engine, you could tell who it was coming at you from around the bend. Paddy Edwards. There's Burrell. Traction engine, general purpose traction engine. Steering. And we got one of the engines we saw earlier, well, we saw Paddy's as well. One of the engines we saw earlier, Tommy. Fowler Agricultural. Nice to see an engine. I know it's not nice if you're driving it on the road, but it's nice to see an engine still on strikes. Which is the cross pieces on the rear wheels, steel, unless that's been converted somehow. But that should be steel, those cross braces on the wheels, to afford a little bit of grip, but also make it a very, very rough ride. Right, now we've got Colin Hirsch on his single crank compound, hello Dina, on his single crank compound Burrell, an engine he knew for many years before he became part owner of it. Travels long ways under its own steam, does that little engine there. And that's one of Burrell's most longest lasting designs, the single crank compound. Basically you've got two cylinders, one on top of the other, to afford you the compounding, but you've got a very large crosshead and only one conrod to the crank. Then we've got what I think is King George, yeah. King George the 5th. It's a lovely little Burrell tractor. You notice on that one that the front wheels somewhere in its life were converted to pneumatics. A lovely little tractor that, possibly a gold medal. Little compound tractor. I should imagine that Ferrell gets going on the road, that engine. Now we've got a Foster. Now this is a particularly fast little engine, this is. I believe Chris Arrowsmith owns this one now. And it's a Foster Lincoln tractor. I can hop it, and it most certainly can. There's absolutely no doubt about that whatsoever. Yeah? If I remember rightly, that used to tow a living van called I Can Skip in it. Village Queens, that delightful Roby tractor that I had to steer around on earlier on. And then we've got an S6 Sentinel from, I'll say the mid-30s or thereabouts. Not so many S6s or S8s around, one or two S4s. There you go, 7 out of 154 I'm being told by the man on my left. What a wonderful thing. Upright boiler in the back. I've actually fired on a Sentinel on the road, and trust me, it's not easy. You are working, well, you've got your bum against the windscreen most of the time, to be honest with you. You are working hard as a fireman on one of those on the road. Alright, now for all the world, and I'm not reading any of this, so I'm sorry if I'm not being too technical, but I'm not the best reader in the world. This is a road locomotive. A Fowler, if I can read that bit. A Fowler road loco, A7 overhead valve, compound engine, 3-speed. I've actually been on a road run, I'm sat behind this engine in a trailer on one of Aston Banks road runs. Michael Davis, and what a lovely man. It was his birthday and he invited us onto his trailer and we spent the day with him. What a lovely bloke. Towing a nice low loader type trailer with some wheels on, a locomotive rear wheel, and for a Fowler BB1 I'm told, so that's a Plowing engine wheel and set of front wheels there. This is the gentleman that was steering the Marshall that went round earlier. This is his pride and joy, as much as the Marshall. Though as I said, he did once say to me that the Marshall was the last engine he ever sold, if need be. This is one of only 4, I believe, that were made. 3 still exist. Fowler Super Lyre, and she's called Supreme. Double crank compound, all the Showman's fittings in chrome, which is what it had when it was brand new. Deakin asked for them to be done in chrome, and those 4, I believe, were some of the last, if not the last, Showman's engines ever made. Probably dates from, I'll take a hack in about 1934, something like that. It's got a feast crane on the back, what they call a feast crane, or at least hasn't got the crane, but it's got all the fittings for the feast crane. And that was for putting the cars off the scenics, what they call the scenic rides, and they would use the feast crane for putting the cars off the ride. And that is why, with a lot of these big engines of that period, you had exciters as well as dynamos on them, because you needed an awful lot of power just to kick the scenic into life. Once it was running, it ran on very relatively few amps, but to actually get it off the line, it needed a big jolt of electric. So you would have a dynamo with a exciter on it as well to give it that. I've seen these Showman's engine pushing out 500 amps, and that's a lot of electric at 110 volts. Right, now this is what I suspect is an engine that went back to probably McLaren's. McLaren's did an awful lot of this, converting steam engines when the boiler failed into diesel-powered engines. Some with their own engines on. McLaren built diesel engines, big diesel engines. This one's called Salty. It would have run as a pair. It is indeed a Plowing engine. And basically you had one of those on the headland at each end of the field, and they winched the plough or the cultivator backwards and forwards across the field. And it was technical stuff for you. But I'll just give a sort of brief resume as they come past. Beautiful. Majestic, one could almost say. There was a firm at a place called Bomford, or Barford, whose name escapes me, but they had quite a lot of these Plowing engines used for dredging. They used them for mainly, converted to diesels. And I wish I could remember their names. I used to go past it. Bomford and Evershed. I told you he was the technical man, and I used to go past it about twice a week when I worked for the Unipart, driving a lorry for the Unipart, and there they were, derelict in the yard. It always struck me as such a shame. Right, now this is Arthur. And Arthur's a Fowler, single-cylinder roller. And as I said earlier, the reason it's called Arthur, it was owned by 2 people. And half was his and half was his. So it was Arthur. Local registration to me, huh? EG, so maybe he worked in Gloucestershire somewhere at one time. course, over there in Leeds, as so many engines were. Right by the McLaren factory, McLaren makers of fine engines were just behind the John Fowler factory. We may well see a McLaren. We don't think we've got a full-size McLaren here. We may well see a miniature later. Yes, of course you can. Delightful miniature. This is a half-size compound barrel, which is called Simplicity. Those sea ladies get involved in the job as well. It really is. Lovely. Road engines and Kerr, and of course they were a very, very famous road locomotive company that did heavy haulage. This is Twilight. She's a half-size Garrett 4CD. Being steered by my missus, driven by my daughter. So, and we've got 3 generations really, because that's Sam's son in the middle. Been lost it. Enjoying every minute of it as well, he loves it. What we got now? Clayton and Shuttleworth. Fine engines, Clayton. I used to own one myself. I had a roller. Had a Clayton roller, a very, very heavily built, well-lasting machines, these Claytons. That's Honey Cribs. Ex-Carl Brown, that engine. Believe it or not. I remember many years ago when he owned that engine. Been rechristened Jimmy. As I said earlier, very, very large number of engines Barnes Brothers had down at Southwick. This is, I'm not going to try and pronounce that. Fowler Leeds, lovely little roller this, nice to see one that hasn't been converted to a Showman's engine. And before you say you wouldn't see such a thing as a single cylinder Showman's engine, I totally agree with you, but I actually know one engine that they did convert a single cylinder to a Showman's, and it looked absolutely ridiculous. Right, that lovely Wallace and Stevens, Wallace Advance there going round now. Very versatile roller that. You could have that in, well, you could have that in 6, 8 or 10 ton. Some of them had solid wheels, so you could fill it up with water, make them even heavier. John Milton's Marshall, Ancient Hall. Always nice to see this engine. Drove that all the way to the Great Dorset one year, that engine. Then we got Mercury. Gentleman owns that, lives in the next village to me, believe it or not. A Garrett, big Garrett Agricultural, not too many of those about. Plenty of 4CDs. but not many big engines left by Garrett. Paddy Edwards is Burrow, single, Aggie, beautifully restored. Bedtime Pat had a restoration job really. Tommy was in the ring earlier doing the ladies' invitation. Fowler single, general purpose engine. 2 uses of the steam. Live from the boiler, pushes the piston, and then is exhaust up the chimney to draw the fire. Where with a compound you get, such as this, you get 3 uses. Live from the boiler to the high pressure side, exhausted into the low pressure side, i.e. the bigger cylinder, and then exhausted up the chimney to draw the fire. So technically you get 3 uses of the steam on a compound engine. Lovely little barrel tractor. I suspect that is probably a gold medal. But very unusual to have the pneumatic wheels on the front. King George V. David Davis. Isn't there a politician called David Davis? I wonder if it's him. I can hop it. As I said, I believe this engine now owned by Chris Arrowsmith. Foster Wellington tractor. Very, very capable tractors, in my humble opinion, those Wellington tractors. If I couldn't find myself a GND Evelyn, that would be my second choice. Chris Arrowsmith now hates me. Oh, what a lovely little tractor too, that Roby. Very, very pretty, in my opinion. Got to steer that earlier and most pleasurable. And we've got really what was the last design of Sentinel lorries. Vertical boiler, you've got horizontal engine under the chassis with 4 cylinders. Poppet valves, the same as a diesel or a petrol engine. Shaft drive. Steam brakes, or at least on some of them you had steam brakes. Very, very, very advanced design, those Sentinels. I think a bloke by the name of Doble, who was an American, who had a lot to do with high pressure steam cars, had a lot to do with the design of the very late Sentinels. Michael Davis's beautiful road loco. As I said, I got to have a ride behind that engine on a road run. A very nice day out it was as well. Towing that lovely little low loader trailer. What is affectionately known as Nellie now by Dave Tomlins. Lord Nelson, big purposeful powerful engine that. I think that's at 8 horsepower. Might be 10, but I think it's 8. Yeah. And we got that delightful little 4CD tractor in half size, miniatures going round. and a single crank compound barrel miniature. We're not going down with it, just changed into big wheel, and that's where he stopped.